I was creative like just from the beginning, and that's probably some of the problems I had was that I was just always doing my own thing, following my own rules, creating things as I went, and I always gravitated towards writing. Or at least trying to find something creative to do, and then writing seemed to be the most natural. I was a computer engineer at first. When I got into business, and I guess I got into business because my dad was an engineer, so I went into that world where you wear a suit and you get in by 9 and you're out by 6 or 7. And the most creative thing to do was computers back then because people didn't know how to use them, and someone showed me a few tricks and then I learned, and then I picked up that role when something opened up, and then I ended up running most of the whole computer section for Macy's for several years. But that was a lot of stress. And you made a lot of money, but it was loads of responsibility and a lot of stress. And I decided to switch, and I left Macy's and went to law school at Rutgers Law School in Camden. My wife and I, Jane, we were looking around the Northeast for different law schools, and when we went to Rutgers Camden, just because it was on the way and they gave us a place to stay, we hung out in the dorm, and we were sleeping there, and we went over the bridge to Philadelphia to check it out, and we just fell in love with Philadelphia. I got out of law school just after 9/11, and I worked for a few years for judges. And I was an academic lawyer, which meant I would research questions of law, deal with appeals, and I wrote all day, and I just became a legal writer, and it was a very creative outlet. And then I went into a law practice for a little over a year, and I didn't like that at all. And they didn't like me necessarily being creative, so I was kind of like the legal artist, and I'd always come up with the most unique ways to handle a problem. And they didn't necessarily like that. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And I think it would have been fine, but it just became too much stress for me to deal with that. It just wasn't right. And that's when I left the law and just started writing full time. I started doing some screenwriting because my novel submissions, folks would say that the dialogue is really good, but the other parts need a lot of the development. So a couple people said, well, maybe you should look at screenwriting because it's all dialogue. And that's what I started doing was screenwriting, and then I got involved in some screenwriting projects with other people. And I did that for several years, and that went fairly well. One of the problems with screenwriting is you can work on it for 6 months, and then it can go into pre-production for 2 years, and you never know if it's good. It might never come out. I still have things I've worked on that are still in pre-production 10 years later. And so one day I just walked into an open stage. Folks were going up with their guitar and singing their songs. And I just was hanging out, having a beer and watching this. And I'm like, that's really cool. You can just walk up. People can hear what you created, and they can give you feedback right away. And then you can hang out with them as well. I was meeting the musicians too. So I gave that a shot. I just learned a few chords on the guitar and gave that a shot. And that was in March of 2010. That's when I started playing guitar. I think after doing the open mic for a year and people saying that your songs are good, I had the feeling that I was writing better songs than anyone that I was seeing anywhere in the city. But I knew I wasn't reaching my potential yet because I couldn't play the guitar really well. And I just wasn't experienced enough yet, but I knew I had the potential. So I made it part of my work. So I split my work between doing the two, and I just kept spending an hour or two a day on the guitar writing songs. And it wasn't until the bassist in our band right now, Alan, came on board, Alan Lee. Something about him, even though we're direct opposites, the essential elements of doing the music, we were like-minded. And that was about a year ago, and it was at that point I realized this can work. Because it can't work, you can't do it, at least for me, I couldn't do it by myself. Like I was good enough to get the songs going and they were good, But to make them really good, I needed good people around me that were the best at what they did, and were also smart, were also determined, reliable, and believed in what we were doing. And that all just fell into place like a year ago. That's when Alan got involved, and then 6 months ago, Timmy Stevens was a drummer who responded through a Craigslist ad. And when Tim came in, then it was just, everything settled down. And it was like, this works. The thing about being an artist, musician, or any art, is you have these rare, but when they happen, really beautiful moments. And that's the best way I can express it. And the whole endeavor of doing this is to have that beautiful moment. And it's nothing you can script. It's just one night it'll happen, then you'll have 4 bad nights or mediocre nights, and then you'll have one good one. And we had good nights the whole time through where it was just wonderful. There was nothing better, and you were creating something fantastic, and people were responding to it. That was the whole point. So after that, I was just like, this is just a search for something beautiful, to create something beautiful. And then it just became easier to do that when the right characters were involved. Like for every 500 people that want to do it, there's only 1 or 2 people that have the ability to really do it. And I feel like I'm one of those people. And I feel like Alan and my band is one of those people. And once you get a few of those people together, you have a shot to really do it. And really doing it is like, it's not about making money, though it would be good to make money. It's about having these opportunities to have beautiful moments. I know that sounds corny, but at my age, and with all I've been through in my life, when you have that beautiful moment, there's nothing better than it.
And the clouds all gathered as the flying angels sang. Making him one last wind song.